They're scratching at my window again. Slow, deliberate, like claws dragging across the glass just to remind me it's still out there. I don't look anymore. I already know what I'll see if I do. If you're listening to this, don't make the same mistake I did. Don't chase curiosity when it tells you to turn back. I thought it was harmless, just some old Pokémon ROM hack buried in a forum nobody visits anymore. At worst, I expected broken sprites, maybe some edgy fan-made dialogue. What I got instead was something that slipped through the screen and decided I was worth following. I can't tell you exactly what it looks like, not yet. You wouldn't believe me anyway, but I can tell you this much. Once you've seen it, once you've heard it whisper your name, there's no going back. And it all started with that game. I should probably start by saying I wasn't looking for trouble. I wasn't some hacker scouring the dark web for cursed files or anything like that. I was just bored, nostalgic. You know how it goes. You get that itch to revisit something from your childhood, and for me, it was Pokémon. I grew up with those games. Long nights hunched over a chunky Game Boy, squinting at the screen until my parents yelled at me to sleep. I missed that feeling, so one evening I started digging around online for old ROMs, emulators, fan hacks, weird mods. Half the fun was finding the bizarre stuff people cooked up. Honestly, I thought the scariest thing I'd find was some nightmare fuel fan art of Pikachu with human teeth. But the deeper I went, the stranger the threads became. Buried between half-dead links and shady downloads, I saw people whispering about a version nobody was supposed to play. No screenshots, no walkthroughs, just warnings. Everyone said the same thing: don't click it. That was all it took for my curiosity to spark. And of course, I clicked. The file finished downloading before I could even think twice. That's when everything began. The thread didn't even have a proper title, just a jumble of numbers and letters like a corrupted save file, 0xrotom.x. At first I thought it was spam, but when I clicked, there it was, one single download link sitting in the middle of an otherwise empty page. No screenshots, no gameplay descriptions, just a handful of cryptic comments left by people who sounded more like survivors than players. Don't download this. I only lasted 10 minutes. They won't answer my messages anymore. One post stuck out the most. Someone wrote, "Everyone who plays it disappears from the forums. Check the usernames if you don't believe me." And when I did, I noticed entire accounts, threads, comments, even avatars, vanished like they'd never existed. The file name was blunt, like a bad joke, Pokémon Death Version. Part of me almost laughed. It sounded like some 12-year-old's attempt at being edgy. I mean, what could a fan-made ROM possibly do? Corrupt my hard drive? Crash the emulator? But another part of me, the part that remembered those deleted accounts, couldn't shake the itch. What was so dangerous about a silly little hack? Why did everyone warn me away without explaining why? Curiosity won. It always does. I copied the file, loaded up the emulator, and told myself it'd be nothing more than a glitchy mess. I couldn't have been more wrong. The title screen flickered to life. At first glance, it almost looked normal. The familiar Game Freak logo, the nostalgic little jingle, except the sound was warped, like someone dragging their fingers across piano keys. The title screen loaded, Pokémon Death Version. The font looked jagged, almost hand-scratched, and behind it was a Charmander sprite, only wrong. Its colors were muted, its eyes too dark, and it blinked at a painfully slow pace, like each movement was being forced. I laughed nervously. "Okay, Edgy, I get it," I muttered. But something about the silence between the distorted notes kept me frozen. When the game began, the opening sequence started like always. Professor Oak introducing the world of Pokémon. Only this time, when the text box appeared, it didn't say "hello there." It said, "Hello, my real name." I actually whispered aloud, "No way, how would it know my name?" It wasn't on my computer profile, not in the emulator. My stomach twisted as Oak's sprite stared out from the screen, waiting, almost like it heard me. The cursor blinked, not offering the usual choices. Just one word appeared: "Continue." My finger hovered over the key. Every instinct told me to close the emulator, delete the file, forget this ever happened. But curiosity, it dug in deeper. I had to see where this was going. So I pressed enter. The game welcomed me back. At first, I convinced myself it was just clever coding, a spooky fan project, nothing more. But the deeper I played, the less that excuse made sense. My starter fainted during the first battle and didn't come back. No Pokemon Center, no revival. The game just told me, it's gone forever. I caught another, but when it fainted, the same thing happened. Every defeat was permanent. The NPCs weren't any better. In the first town, a little girl sprite walked up to me and said, "He's watching you right now." Another villager muttered, "I can hear you breathing." Their words weren't random, they felt aimed directly at me. Then came the map. The names of the towns were all wrong. Instead of Pallet or Viridian, they were replaced with things I recognized. My old street address, the name of my middle school, even my birthday. Seeing it laid out on that pixelated world map made my hands go cold. I'd read plenty of stories like this before. Lavender Town Syndrome, haunted cartridges, the usual Creepypasta fare. I thought I knew the formula. Distorted music, creepy dialogue, jump scares. But this wasn't following the script. It was writing its own, and somehow it was writing me into it. I stared at the screen, heart racing, the distorted chiptune music burrowing under my skin. That was the moment the weight of it hit me. This wasn't a game anymore, it was a mirror. My last shred of common sense screamed at me to quit. So I did. I slammed the window shut, powered off my laptop, and sat there in silence. For a few seconds, I actually believed it was over. I couldn't have been more wrong. When I shut the laptop, I expected the relief to come instantly. That dull, stupid wave of, "Okay, it's done, I'm safe." But the screen stayed faintly lit, even after I held the power button until my knuckles ached. The fan whirred. The glow refused to die. Then the room lights flickered, not just once, but in a steady pulse, almost in rhythm with the distorted game music that was still echoing in my head. I reached for my phone thinking maybe I'd distract myself, doom scroll until I calmed down. But the screen lit up with a notification, just a single sound file attached. I opened it before I thought better. It was a Pokémon cry, except it was stretched, mangled, like a dying animal caught between static bursts. Another buzz. This time a text from a friend. "Why are you sending me these pictures?" My stomach dropped. "What pictures?" I typed back. Seconds later, they replied with a screenshot. It was my starter Pokémon, the one that had fainted permanently. Except its sprite was mangled, eyes black, mouth wide open as if screaming. behind it, blurry shapes. Shapes that looked like my room. I didn't send that. I swear I didn't. One message after another came in. People asking if I was okay. People begging me to stop freaking them out. None of it made sense. And that's when I knew. Turning off the game hadn't ended anything. Whatever it was, it had bled out. It wasn't trapped in the emulator anymore. This was the moment I realized something had followed me, and it wasn't going to stop at the screen. That night, I woke to a sound I couldn't mistake, no matter how warped it was. A Pokémon cry. Stretched, slowed down, torn apart by static, but still recognizable. It came from outside my window, drifting through the dark like something calling for me. At first, I told myself it had to be in my head. Maybe I'd fallen asleep with the emulator running, maybe I was dreaming. But then came the scratching. Slow, deliberate, dragging nails across the glass. I forced myself to look. It was standing there. Not a person, not an animal. A shape flickering in and out like corrupted pixels trying to hold themselves together. Its body stuttered with each movement, reality lagging around it. But the eyes, those I recognized instantly. They were the same lifeless black voids that stared out from my starter sprite before it vanished. For a moment it didn't move, just pressed its face against the window, like it wanted me to see it clearly. I stumbled backward, heart hammering, too afraid to blink. I didn't need to know what it was. I didn't need to see its full shape. The only thought in my head was to get rid of the game, delete the file, burn it out of existence. Maybe then it would leave me alone. So I ran to my laptop, praying it wasn't too late. I dragged the file straight into the trash, emptied the bin, even ran a cleaner just to be sure. For a second, relief washed over me. Then I refreshed the folder. It was back. Same name, same size, sitting there like it never left. Desperate, I searched the forum again. Most of the old threads were wiped, but I dug through cached archives, half-broken mirrors of what used to be. And I found them, posts from people describing exactly what I'd seen. The distorted cries, the sprites that shouldn't exist, the thing outside the window. And then, silence. No follow-ups, no goodbyes, just vanishing accounts. If you think this is just some creepypasta, go look for yourself. The forums are still out there if you know where to dig. That ROM isn't just a file, it's a curse passed from one player to the next, and I just inherited it. I booted the emulator one last time, hands trembling. Maybe if I finished the game, I could end this. Maybe if I beat it, it would leave me alone. The final battle loaded and my stomach dropped. The opposing trainer sprite looked exactly like me. Every pixel, every detail, my hair, my clothes, my hesitant stance rendered in that grotesque 8-bit style. Their team wasn't random Pokémon. No, it was a lineup of everything I feared. My missing cat rendered in glitchy fire, my late grandmother's sprite, eyes hollow, floating as if accusing me. Even the shadows of childhood bullies I'd thought I'd forgotten. The enemy trainer leaned forward. The text box appeared. "You can't turn me off anymore." And then I heard it. My own voice whispering the same words from the corner of the room. I couldn't look away from the screen. I couldn't escape. This wasn't a game anymore. It was a ritual, and I was the sacrifice. Every childhood memory, every nostalgic comfort had been twisted into something alive, patient and hungry. I realized in that moment I might not survive long enough to finish telling anyone this story. And still, I pressed B. I don't know how much longer I have. I'm writing this because I need someone, anyone, to know. The thing is still outside my window, shifting in the shadows, its eyes tracking me with that same hollow black stare. Every time I try to focus, I catch a flicker of that corrupted sprite in the corner of my vision. If you ever stumble across that ROM link, don't play it. Don't even download it, because once you do, it doesn't stop. It follows you through screens, through walls, through the sound of your own voice. I've shared everything I can, but I can't guarantee you're safe. Maybe you'll read this and laugh, thinking it's just a story. But check the forums if you dare. Search for the missing accounts, the vanished threads. You might find proof that I'm not lying, or worse, that it's still looking for the next player. I want to tell you more, but I can hear the scratching starting again. It's the same as the first night. Slow, deliberate, and insistent. It's here again. I don't have much time. Don't let it follow you too. If you survive, leave a comment. Share what you've seen. Maybe together we can stop it, or at least warn the next person who thinks curiosity is harmless.